Bureaucracy, a word that rings a lot of bells in everyone's mind. A system which was created to bring governance and balance in the lives of people. And as time passed, the system started to get complicated. A system which was created to basically solve problems started to become one. But what happens when you bring creativity and creative thinking for the betterment of bureaucracy? Hello people, we are heading to Creative Bureaucracy Festival, a festival where people from all around the world, like bureaucrats, people who work in government, NGOs, design agencies are coming together to deliver speeches and panel discussions about bringing creativity in bureaucracy, in governmental processes and services and policy making. It's very interesting for me. I also scored myself a press pass and now we are heading towards it. Let's go. There were so many speakers and discussions happening at every hour. I went through some of them, like 7-8 of them, and then I had my notebook and I started making the notes and writing down all the interesting things I feel about all these bureaucratic discussions and bringing creativity in the bureaucracy. And in this video, I'm gonna share a couple of highlights from my experience at the Creative Bureaucracy Festival, starting from 7 principles which were created by Danish Design Center in order to work on bureaucracy creatively. The first one is start with the citizen needs. So basically understanding the needs of the user, understanding the problems and insights from the research, and then working on the projects. Second one is involve those you design for. So basically include the people. It's very inclusive. For example, you are doing something for neighborhood, bring all the stakeholders, like all the people and citizens inside the process, bring them together, do co-design workshops and sessions in order to design something with the people for the people. The third one is build, test, learn fast. So basically prototyping. Instead of making policies and creating projects and pushing directly on the people, try to make basic prototypes and mock-ups and test them with the users and the citizens so you understand whether they work or no instead of realizing it when it's too late. Fourth one is think services and not digitization. Basically, whenever we think about transformation and the future, we think digitization is way to go. But when you really understand the needs of the stakeholders or citizens, for that matter, you understand how you're gonna solve the problems. And if the solution requires digitization, then only go for digitization instead of pushing digitization on everything. Fifth one is enable new markets. So basically inviting small firms, startups, new talents, creative people inside the bureaucratic systems to solve problems. This way you create more jobs. At the same time, it's a better way to solve problems by bringing newer talents and newer technologies inside the bureaucratic systems itself. Sixth one is be ethical. So as it's a bureaucratic and governmental process, you have to be very secure and following all the privacy norms of the government. So basically having this ethical mindset while you create services is very, like, it's a primary base of creating such services. Seventh one is be a design leader. So most of the times bureaucrats or the people who are inside the system are decision makers. So they are the people who take decisions and do things. But instead of being a decision maker or decision taker, be a future maker. This has more responsibility in itself because you're creating something which has more value and you kind of take a responsibility of creating better values instead of just taking decisions and moving on. That was interesting. Like the government of Finland, they made a new rule or new law where they redefined the libraries. So libraries were not just a place where you go and check out the books, but a place where you can exchange ideas, you can do things. There were a lot of maker spaces available in that physical place, and they started redefining libraries, which was very interesting. They also brought people together. They did a project in Finland where they asked people to write down their dreams, like what they think about their future cities, what they think about the societies, and people started writing down their ideas, and in the end they gathered so much data about the imagination of people, about what they want in the city, because government is basically a service provider. Like we pay the taxes and they have to give us services, so including people to understand what they really want in the city is very important. And they took all these dreams together, and then there was a service design agency who went through all the insights and created a vision or a future vision for the city, and then they started developing this library project. Very interesting, you should look it up. There was also a session by ambassadors of different countries, like I guess there was Denmark, Switzerland and Honduras, and they were all, the ambassadors were sitting down and discussing the creative bureaucracy part and how they are dealing with different problems in their countries. was very interesting to see on that level how things are perceived. Also, the countries were super different. Like Switzerland and Denmark were still on kind of like a same page, of course not similar, but then Honduras comes from a very different culture and very different way of bureaucracy and very different system. So it was interesting to understand the flavors of this different kind of way of dealing with problems. And that session also gave a view on how the countries are perceiving this all not design oriented, but very creative problem solving in bureaucratic settings on a very higher level. Yeah, then the recent session I attended was by, it's called Radical Collaboration. Urban Practice was the name of the agency or organization which is doing this project, and that particular project caught my attention because it's a project by two people basically. One has a media background and other person has a music background, and they started doing projects in Finland, again Finland, and they started bringing people together, communities together to solve the problems, and started doing projects, and where they started involving also like big brands to fund these projects. As I come from Politecnico di Milano, I've seen a lot of social innovation projects while studying in the university. Also, there is a DESIS lab which does like a network of social innovation projects around the world. And whenever you see such projects happening, there is lack of the funding factor, like who's funding these projects, how's the money coming in, how the people who are putting in time are getting benefited by these projects on a monetary level, not just by a goodwill, but also by a monetary benefit. And these people somehow made a nice example. They started doing a lot of projects, and where they started involving brands and people, neighborhood, and also cities, where they have kind of a business model where 20% of funding comes from the city organization like municipalities, and 80% of the money comes from the private partners. For example, there was a project where they had set up a pop-up restaurant where the students from the like a hospitality and hotel management kind of university where institution were involved in that project. They opened it up for people, so people came in from the neighborhood. They ran it in a school canteen, so they used the public space for that, and they got like a very big food supplying partner as a private partner to fund this, and they brought like Michelin star chefs to teach the students and then open the pop-up restaurant. Very interesting, very exhausting work to manage all the stakeholders, to get them on board, to also follow the bureaucracy, to be in the framework of the law and legal procedures. But very inspiring to see that social innovation projects happening also on the monetary level. And Radical Collaboration by Urban Practice was one of the key highlights of these 2 days seminars I've attended. But what did I really get out of these 2 days of seminar? The key highlights for me would be what is my role in this system, what I could do with the skill set I have honed, social innovation, service design, videos, music, general life skills. What can I do, or what can a person do in his environment, in his setting, in his town, in his country, in his city, wherever, and how can we bring out change in the surrounding, because we know there are problems, we know it should be solved. Sometimes we also know how it could be solved in a way, but how can we do that? It's very important. So I have hopes, and that's all. It just feels good to see people changing the way they work in bureaucratic settings, and really brings out hope. Not only by changing like a system or legal things or policy making or changing the systems, also in our social environment, like Creative Meetup. Small thing, but has a really good potential. So would like to explore that topic, would like to explore this thing, because it's more meaningful for me as a person to do something for people, with people, around people. That's all.